I think techies, even if they're just techies by themselves, are inherently creative. I think some people don't give themselves the credit for being creative. But in tech, you have to learn something new every single day. You have to juggle many different ideas and put pieces of the picture together. And like, if that isn't creativity at its heart, then I don't know what it is.
Hey there, welcome to Better Talks the podcast.
I am Rick.
And I am Oscar. And today we are joined by Hannah King, a senior cloud architect at Microsoft and a cybersecurity expert. Welcome, Hannah.
Welcome.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Well, it's great to have you. Full disclosure up front, Hannah is a direct colleague of mine. She's in the same team as I work as a cloud solution architect.
So you have no questions?
I have a bunch of questions because we don't speak about all of the things all of the time because we have like customers to manage sometimes. So Hannah, maybe for people listening in, what is it that you do on a day-to-day basis? And then how did you traverse into the current role where you are right now?
Okay, yeah. So what I do on a day-to-day basis is, as a cloud solution architect at Microsoft, I work with a lot of different customers. Currently, I work on one specific market of customers, but I've worked on lots of different ones since joining Microsoft. And I'm there basically as a technical advisor across Azure to help them with any of their problems that come up when they're trying to build stuff, or helping them understand like best practices and how things work with the ever-growing complexity of the landscape as it is. So that's a little bit about not what just I do, but what you do as well, which you know.
No, but, right, for the people listening, they might not necessarily know.
But they won't.
So is your role then like broad, mostly cloud support, still helping some customers lift and shift, I guess. But are you being called in if it's more towards security, or is that a different part of your work?
So I can cover security as well, but I'm a generalist across Azure. So it means that it could be any multitude of questions across, I think, the hundreds of different tooling that we have in the environment, which makes the role like super broad and kind of interesting. And most days I'm being asked something that I have is maybe a new thing to me because it's always... The customers know the products so well if they're using them day in, day out, especially if you're working with people who are working with this very tiny little implementation of something. It's the same when I was building back, when I was working as a consultant. You know, we might work really focused in this one thing and you get to know the ins and outs and the inner workings of things. So then part of what my role is to help people when I think they have come up with these very specific questions, when they've come up with the block or the limitation or the workaround or what they're trying to really specifically
I'm
think
sometimes
about
on the
how to
other
do.
side of those calls, and I can really imagine it's like I'm going like 10 levels deep in one particular thing. And that's hard. It's like, I know it exists, but let me find a specialist for you.
But that's the thing, right? I think a part of our role, and definitely not all of it, but part of our role is also helping customers navigate Microsoft and finding the right person within Microsoft to answer their questions.
But that's also hard from the outside to know what to connect to. So.
It's hard from the inside sometimes as well.
Can imagine.
It's like a treasure hunt.
Yeah.
Sometimes of, you know, you speak to this person who speaks to that person who speaks to the next person. And then eventually you get down the rabbit hole that you need to.
Yeah, sometimes you're 7 people deep into Teams conversations before you get to the person you actually need to talk to. But in the end, you find them and they always are happy to help. So I think that's something that also I think has changed a lot. But it's now relatively easy to get that help and that answer because everybody's really open to help at any time.
And do you see, I'm guessing, it's a bit obvious, that you see a trend lately? Last 2 years, 3 years, I guess, we need to do something with AI. But I can imagine it flipped into we need to optimize our cost here. We want access to a model that's actually in my governing state. Do you? I can imagine you're all fully deep in those questions at the moment. Or is there anything that is almost what you wouldn't expect questions there? Or is everyone asking the same thing?
I think everybody is excited and wants to do things, especially in the world of AI. But then it's like actually figuring out the use cases that are going to work. And then how do you actually manage your data? Like, I think I'm coming off a lot of calls of it's like they've got the data all over the place. I was literally just speaking with a couple of customers this week, and they're like, how do we even manage this? Where do we even start? And I think that's what a couple of our tools at the minute are trying to kind of figure out is like, how do you actually access the things that you have already there and kind of start working with it as is?
And to be honest, yes, a lot of those questions are those types of questions, but it's also still questions where you see that the customer is relatively early on in the cloud journey. So also, how do we optimize for security? How do you optimize for resiliency? How do we still get those questions as well? And that's because there's, just like Hannah said, it's such a complex ecosystem that we help them navigate. But sometimes people don't necessarily think of all of the different aspects of building a cloud solution. And then we pull in the well-architected framework and we use that as the basis to look at what their environment looks like. And that also might mean that we need to tell them that it's not a good idea to have all of your SQL databases publicly accessible over the internet, or that storage accounts still use shared access keys for access. So that's also, I think, a big part of what we still do is help customers navigate that part of the cloud.
Yeah, I can imagine that a company that is not really fully embraced the cloud in a modern way and did a 5 to 10 years ago lift and shift and didn't move. They are having the same basic problems again, getting their data in the right place.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true, and I'm not sure if Hannah sees it the same way. But I always say when I speak to customers and I have feedback on how they actually implemented their environment, I always say this is not criticism, because the system has had value up until now because it brought you to where you are right now.
But it's like legacy code, right? Like it's earning our salaries at the moment.
Yeah, but looking forward,
don't underestimate it.
Yeah, and then looking forward, let's make sure that we actually build it out to be maintainable for the future as well.
I think that's like really speaks into actually understanding where your customer is and not giving this like the, idealistic version of what everything should be, and thinking about what they actually have. And like when I think about that from a security perspective, the thing would be like, just turn on every security tool, just get as many of them as you can, just collect all of your logs, and that's not the answer at the end of the day. That just creates more problems than anything else, especially if you don't have like a strategy and an idea around how you want the planning to happen in that way, I think that was maybe the approach before, but when systems and environments have got ever so increasingly complicated, then you kind of have to sit back and think, hey, what do we actually have here that's, and like tiering your resources. Like I've heard lots of customers say, oh, but everything is equally important in the environment. And that means, like, how do you know where to start if everything's equally important or will have a big effect on your business if something goes wrong with it? And yeah, so I've done that kind of planning with customers in the past of like, no, you actually have to work out what are your most important assets. And I think that's a question that people are quite often unwilling to maybe have a look at in the beginning, but it's definitely one of the best places to start at.
Yeah, is it hard to actually grasp the complexity of the customer solution? Because for me, it's really hard to transfer that in a single call or whatever. It's like, this is what our solution looks like. And I can imagine in a more consultant role at a customer, you could go pretty deep, own the stuff a bit more, see some architecture diagrams. But your role is most of the time half an hour call, or like, does that feel limited, or like at some point you just like switch quickly and you know exactly what I have a type of customers, like it's one of those. How do you do that? Or do you keep administration and try to make a mental model of their business on your side?
I'm interested to hear what Rick's thoughts are on this as well. But you know that saying of like, you think I don't know why I was thinking about this. You think everybody's talking about you or thinking about you all the time because you're so special, but you realize maybe you're not. I think it's something similar in customer environments. It's like that.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not all that different. And when you actually get the opportunity to see a lot of environments, you see the patterns that people are falling into.
They tend to fall into certain categories, right? But then I think what's really important is I've had customer conversations where they showed me what they wanted me to see instead of their actual environment. Because, I mean, in the end, and I think that's true on so many levels for people, if somebody comes and comes into your house and says, "Oh, show me around," you might not open the cupboard that's full of crap because you think it's full of crap. I don't want anybody to see.
Yeah.
And I think the same is true for software architectures or for cloud environments, where people say, "Yeah, we have this storage account which has managed identity enabled and it's not publicly accessible." And then I'm not going to be talking about the 5 storage accounts that are also there that are publicly accessible because you don't want to know that. And on one hand, that's their given right? I mean, show me what you want to show me. But also for us to be able to help people, it does help to know what their environment looks like. Now, the cool thing is there is this open source tool, Azure Resource Inventory, which actually just takes everything you have in Azure. It's a read-only tool, by the way. It takes all of the resources you have in Azure and it spits them out in an Excel sheet in a certain structure that allows us to really easily see what's happening in your environment. So using that tool, I always tell my customers, this is going to show me everything and anything you have in Azure as far as resources and their configuration goes. But if you want to allow me to be fast and up and running in what your environment looks like and be able to help you, for instance, configure security better for this environment, run the tool, send me the output. It'll help me tremendously in seeing what your environment looks like and how we can help you better.
Yeah, so you don't have an internal pane of glass doing that towards their subscriptions, or?
We cannot see anything that people have in their subscriptions. So we do see types of services they use, but nothing on naming, on the amount of resources, on anything, which is a very good thing because we don't want to know what people are doing unless they want us to know, right?
But if you want to help it, it's kind of useful.
Yeah, but then it's always the customer's choice to provide that information. And then again, if they run that tool, they can still filter out any types of resources they want. But if they send us the full output, for me, that helps tremendously in understanding what an architecture looks like or an environment looks like. You use ARI as well, right, Hannah?
Yeah, I use it all the time. It's super useful, especially like you said. There's one thing hearing what people want to show you or what they have in an ideal reality, or I see architectural decision records or architecture diagrams, and they say, this is what we have, this is how we've designed it.
This is what we want to be.
Yeah.
This is what we want to be.
And then here's the ugly truth. I mean, that's how it works.
And then here is the ugly truth. Yeah. Which is great. It is the truth checker, the lie detector, but it's just very good to actually see what's going on, because I think things can get so complicated sometimes that it's actually hard to know what is there. And, it's good to go back to the old-fashioned way of an Excel spreadsheet sometimes and just be able to see it clearly.
The world still runs on
But
Excel,
also,
right?
like it's a good exercise, I think, for the one running that as well. It's like, do we still have this thing?
Yeah,
I can
mean, that's
imagine
true.
that also pops up.
Yeah, I mean, and then next to that, there's of course a number of tools that people can use themselves as well. That, for instance, show you orphaned resources, so resources, app service plans that don't have app services anymore, stuff like that. So there's tools for that as well. RE gives us just a tremendous amount of insight, and it even builds you a draw.io overview of your environments and the subscriptions and the management groups and the resources there. So it might help you as well, because again, with all of the complexity and the different possibilities of things you can enable on Azure.
I kind of always expected that at some point the portal would start doing this as a dashboard. Basically, it's like, here's everything connected. You can add some metadata, put some lines in between. It's like, this reality, therefore my architecture.
You could do that. Like, you could build that. You could also put this in, it could probably be put in a workbook, because at the end of the day, it's just like, it's resource manager queries. So that would definitely be possible, but you would have to build that. And
we built a platform, right? We built the tools. We enable you to do it yourself. Hannah, diving into security a little bit more. What do you think? How should organizations balance security controls with, for instance, developer velocity in cloud native environments? Because if you tie it down too much, developers might feel hindered. But if you open it up too much, they might be able to do too much in their environments. Do you have ideas on how to balance these two?
I don't think there's some hard and fast rule about how you should manage this.
There never is, right? I mean, there's a reason. The answer is always it depends.
It
probably.
depends. Yeah, I was going to pull that one out and say I was going to take your answer. It depends. What's my own reflections that would be around this is that you have to have strong communication within your organization to actually understand where you're at and the trade-offs that you're willing to accept. What is the risk you're willing to accept at this moment in time to actually keep things moving and keep things running at the pace that you need them to, depending on how things are going? Which means that your technical people have to be speaking to your business people, and they have to be speaking truthfully and openly. And then somebody has to have the ability to accept the risk, instead of it being something that we're not thinking about, we're not talking about, and we're just ignoring it, bringing it to the surface and actually saying, this is what we're okay with right now, versus this is the thing that we actually need to spend some money on, get some consultants in and try and streamline this process more, because it's going to be very individual for each company depending on the maturity that they're at. And like, again, this goes back to understanding what your assets are. Are you actually tiering these things and deciding which one is it's really important if this resource, gets hacked or goes down or something happens to it. So there's a lot of planning that has to go into that, and it's not, for me, I cannot say that there's any clear guidelines you could give to any company, because it's very much an internal decision.
Yeah, and it's very dynamic at this moment. Of course, with all the opportunities in AI, you see that companies tend to take a bit more risk than in other periods of time for innovation's sake. But also we know, years ago, there was a big split between business and IT. Everything was locked down. Servers were somewhere in the basement or whatever. No one could access it. So everything went slow. You get shadow IT, all kinds of things, and then at some point you embrace it more dynamically. I have the feeling at this moment it's a closer loop than ever between compliance, IT, devs, business, and legal. And you all need to understand how this technology works,
Yep.
which is easy for the tech people. But like the loop of questions of, are we within our terms and conditions doing this? Our competitor is doing this, so we should do it. Like the entrepreneur in there, like just like, I don't care. It's really hard to do that. Like I've never seen it tighter than this at the moment. But like, yeah, do you provide guidelines? Do you how to do this? How to navigate this? This is also different for every company.
We give guidelines in the sense that we can give guidelines around best practices. Is what you should be doing in your ideal state. These are the things you can be doing. But then we have to be realistic with our customers. And that's where taking the time to actually understand them and then help make a plan on what should be the next bite that they take out of this whole landscape. Because that's the thing that I see quite often, is this like rush to implement and layer on like additional like alerting tools, detection tools. And then that just floods you with more information. And then you take something like the ARI that we were talking about and you see, oh, everything's publicly accessible. So it's like they're trying to alert on these very specific things that, a hacker with like a really direct idea about doing something would have to be doing into their environment, when, any old Joe Soap could probably come along and just...
all the windows are open.
Yeah, jump in through the window, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's difficult to know what to look at, but like it's also difficult to keep up with what the possibilities are. Like I went to the event a couple of weeks ago. You were also presenting there, but in the first part there was something about Defender, and I've set a lot of things up there last year. And I saw now new screens, new opportunities. Like, oh, do we have that? We already have that. I'm not looking at it. But if you look just at the demos, you turn everything on. Like, I just created a new job to look at these things, and I don't know what to do with it.
And the thing is, what happens then is you get notification fatigue. So you get so much information that you just silently push it into this folder where you think, maybe I need to look at it. Or then you start creating rules to just delete all of the crap that you're getting from all of the notifications. And then you lose the value, right?
Yeah.
Expanding on this, my question would be, have you seen any emergent trends in cloud security or AI-driven security that you're really excited about?
I definitely think there's a lot that can be done, and parts that I am interested in is actually utilizing the data in some smart way, which I think is what is kind of emerging now, especially in our own tool stack. Like I've seen it kind of evolving over the last few years. We have Security Copilot, and it's like, how can you actually take the data from all of these different data sources? Because that's what people were doing in incident responses, like literally looking in 5 different tools, trying to deduct something from this entity and linking it with this entity and, seeing if that's an unusual pattern. And this is exactly the use case that AI can solve, simply, is to take away all of the effort and brain power that goes into literally just kind of pulling together the stories from these multiple different tools. Now you have something where you can ask natural language questions, and it's about like understanding what the anomalies are in the environment. What is the thing that's happening that wasn't happening last week? And if you can start to do that more automatically rather than just through defined logic that you have within your tools, then I can see that being very beneficial in this space for understanding the things that you don't understand yet.
I mean, there's this Dutch saying that goes "meten is weten," which roughly translates to "if you measure, then you know." But you need to know what you're measuring to be able to go there, right?
Yeah,
So if you build out that dashboard where you think,
but this
okay,
is always
now,
with telemetry, right?
Yeah.
You get everything in, and it's like, yeah, now what? And then you create a dashboard that makes sense at that moment in time, and it
Right.
ages really quickly.
yeah,
I think there's an opportunity there now to create a much more dynamic insight, but I think also mostly to bring it to a different location, going to a dashboard or having even the all the problems, putting something on the public dashboard within your company, and then thinking about what if someone takes that device that has those insights, and separating, of course, that you're not logging anything sensitive. It was always a pretty hard separation to do. And you need to do either rely on some Slack, Teams, or email message. I mean, if you have one message, you probably have 10,000 messages straight away. And then go to a dashboard. I think the idea of having a more human language approach from querying and alerting and handling the anomalies better, but also bringing it to your desktop. So I have an issue in code or whatever to, I don't know, have an MCP endpoint directly in your app insights would be great as a developer, right? Like this is, production just has this stack trace. It's probably here. Like these things show up now on multiple places. While before you had where you stored it, you need to look for it.
yeah.
Or you needed to converge everything in data and then build a report. I'm curious where our like initial starting point will be, depending on who you are. Will that be an agent that is also alerting you now that you have something to do in your email, and there's some security thing going on? It's like we're moving to really a language, one chat pane kind of centered approach for a lot of work.
Will it be Copilot?
I don't know. Or are we gonna have all the systems everywhere? But
I think at this
it
point,
feels like a security nightmare.
Oh yes, but I think at this point nobody knows, right?
No, indeed.
I mean, we're working on it as we go, and we'll find out along the way.
Yeah, but like for me, it would be awesome to have everything that is now new. Like Defender popped up this thing that it's not an alert somewhere in my box or to a specific team or whatever, but something considering if it's actually is it a call to action for me now, or throw it on a list of improvements. That stuff was like, oh yeah, like I'll check again, or I have in my schedule that I check this monthly, or
are we going to a scenario in which such an alert will automatically trigger a pull request for your infrastructure as code?
Yeah,
and you
it's
just need
safe
to
now.
validate?
No one can reach it. Thanks. I don't know.
That's
Turn
the
it
best
off.
kind of security. If
Yeah,
no
yeah.
one can get in there, then you're all good.
The best
We're
one
good.
is it doesn't exist.
We're all good. Oscar,
Yeah?
just a quick question. Do you happen to know what time it is?
It's time for a totally random question.
Fair enough.
Sorry, Hannah. Here goes. Hannah, what is your favorite way to kick off a day? It even rhymes this time.
Wow.
Oh, what is my favorite way to kick off a day? My favorite way to kick off a day is if I manage to actually get myself out of the bed as soon as I wake up,
Oh, wow.
instead of just lying there contemplating life and, all of those existential questions for too long. So if I
Tip
don't
one,
do that,
don't grab the phone.
and don't grab the phone, and if
Yeah.
I manage to just get up, put my jacket on and get outside and go for a long walk, that is like the best way for me to start my day and makes everything better and easier for the rest of the day.
Yeah, do you need to time to reset before your day starts, or does it give you a lot of energy to do that?
It gives me a lot of energy to do that. I feel like for me, my most creative times come when I'm walking, and I can be very routined or repetitive in the way that I do things. I will walk the same loop For years, when I lived back in the west of Ireland, I walked the same loop for years in the morning. And I would always have my creative thoughts at the exact same spot on the walk every single day. It was like, I don't know, the repetitive nature, the comfort of it or something. I think the repetitive things can bring me comfort sometimes. So now I live in Dublin and I do one walk because I live near Dunleary, which is by the coast. So I'll walk out from my apartment and I'll walk down along the coast for a bit. And there's one place there where it's like the most windy part and the sea is like lapping in there, and that's my favorite place. And then I'll come back home and start.
Do you just in case bring a notebook for your brilliant ideas at that spot?
No, sometimes I write them down, or sometimes I'll put in my phone, or sometimes I'll voice note them to myself. But half the time I just let them fly away into the wind.
Have the same great idea tomorrow.
I've had that. Where you think, that's such a great idea. Wait a minute.
I had this one before. Still good. Do you have that, Rick? Good way to kick off a day?
That's a good question. Well, the thing is, being physically active and going outside, and especially if the weather permits, enjoying being outside, I think that always works. However, I don't always have and or make time to do so, because you don't have time. You make time for things, right? But having a family and a puppy now, and that all of that takes a bit of time.
The puppy brings you a walk, I guess.
It does bring me a walk. Fair enough. No, but the thing is, I'm going to slightly shift and say something that can give me energy sometimes is doing stuff in the physical world instead of being
we talked
digital all the time. Yeah, we talked
creating
about that
something that you can hold.
Yeah, or seeing physical evidence of your work, right? I mean, we're now doing the backyard, and last week I think it was a couple of 100 kilos of concrete I took out, and now I brought it away. So now it's gone from the garden, and it's a lot. It looks a lot better now. And sometimes stuff like that really re-energizes me to also do stuff in the digital world. Yeah. I think that's it for me.
That's good.
Do you have a heavy morning routine?
No, but I definitely
just coffee.
Coffee. I have my coffee later in the morning, but I like to be a bit quiet in the morning, and of course that doesn't always work. But I love my commute.
Yeah.
I tend to go 5 days a week to the office, even though it's not always necessary. Just love the moment in the car, podcast or something, just to I don't know. Just start. Like if I would work from home, especially as no one counting on me on that day for something later or whatever, I just get glued to the machine. Like it's not great.
Well, I do. That's the one thing I miss working from home is the commute back home. So not as much in the morning to get started, but on the commute back home,
shift really back to private.
You have this physical thing that happens, which makes that you can shift away from work. That what took some getting used to for me, but now I've found a way to do that again. So I'm good.
Yeah, I have on the way home. Like that's totally screwed up because I have the half an hour call in the car with the guy I sat next to all day and didn't speak to, but really needed to connect with. So that's gone. But
how's that for you, Hannah? As far as work from home goes, do you have a clear disconnect between work and private life?
Yeah, I think so. I close the laptop and then I don't think about it again.
Wow, is that easy?
That's healthy.
It's that easy. It is that easy. For me anyways, I think it is that easy. I don't like it was only recently that I put the Teams app and that on my phone, but I don't have the notifications on. So it's only if I choose to go in there. Which I think I think you need to have that distinction sometimes, because otherwise you're always on, you know. Sometimes I think, especially on my morning walks, I'm like, I've already done an hour's work here if I'm thinking about something
But that's
for
how it works.
work.
Yeah.
That is how it works. I mean, we all know the XKCD comic probably about compiling, so they're sword fighting. But it's
It's
also
waiting for your agent now.
yes, but also sometimes it's just. I mean, putting it a bit bluntly, but sometimes it's just standing at a window looking outside. You're doing the hardest work of the day because you're
Yeah.
thinking about certain things or an approach or planning something or whatever in your head. That might be
But that's why you need a walk, you need distance, you need a commute, whatever it does, actually to connect things. Because the moment you're interacting with someone else or actually typing something or whatever, you're not really doing the deep thinking or judgment calls. Or it's like in those moments you actually do everything, and after that you need to see to offload it, not to forget what you were thinking about. But like that is the question: what is the actual work? And I think that question is going to be very interesting in the near future. What was my actual work while I'm not typing code anymore, or something like that?
Fair enough. Hannah, one thing that stood out in the bio that we found of you is the fact that you also identify as an artist and a facilitator. Could you maybe go into that into a little bit more detail?
Yeah, I can, which I guess is a little part of my story weaved into tech as well, because I guess I started working in tech just 5 years ago. So I'm pretty new, I guess, in a sense. So I've done a lot of different things before getting into the world of tech. I had taught after university. I ended up teaching for a while, and I did all sorts of different teaching because my first degree was in psychology, mathematics, and chemistry. And so then I ended up going and teaching maths and chemistry for a little while. And then I ended up teaching in a kindergarten and doing all sorts of jobs, and then working on research projects and things. And then I ended up going back to school to study art, and I went and studied fine art practices for a while. And then I was trying to have my hand at being an artist, and I was really into pottery at that time. So I very much understand actually making physical things with your hands and what joy that can bring. And I was just at a moment in my life where I'd been invited to go and do a pottery apprenticeship in Denmark with a potter over there in Randers, if I'm pronouncing that place correctly. And that was the week that I was meant to be flying, was the week everything was just shutting down when COVID started. And so then I didn't get on that flight, and I didn't go and do that pottery apprenticeship at the time. But I had just come back a few weeks before that from a trip walking on the Camino, you know, that trip across Spain. And during that time, I had met somebody who told me all about cybersecurity. And I literally at that time bought I was like, okay, I'm not doing the pottery apprenticeship. Maybe I'll try and learn something about tech. And I bought this book for the A+, if you know what it's like, I think it's a certification from CompTIA, and it's like all about wires and cables and all of this stuff. I had no idea what I was doing to try and get into technology, because at the time I had very little knowledge about it at all. So I was reading the book on wires and finding out about those different things, and then that's how kind of my interest started, and then I got past the wires and into more cybersecurity related things, and that was kind of the start of my tech journey. And then I ended up working in a startup actually around cybersecurity. So I went kind of from art to cybersecurity, but I'm still doing lots of bits in the art world as well. I like doing conceptual bits of work. So I've had exhibitions in the past around more kind of performance art, photography, different pieces mixed in together. And then the facilitation aspect as well is that I have also worked for a few years working as a facilitator for cancer support groups. So that's been a nice piece of, I guess, participation that I've done outside of my work that's given me a lot for my own life, which is really neat, running these programs where you kind of resource people with different emotional tools. I should give a shout out to A Fresh Chapter, which is who I do the facilitation with. And they are a great program to actually, share different things like living in contradiction, or, how to look at themes that are going on in your life. So that's a big part of my life as well. It's not just all tech, it's art things, facilitation things, always thinking about different emotional things as well, which all gets weaved together. So I think that gives me a nice variety in life at the minute.
I can see that one, but I can also imagine that the fact that you were a teacher and that you are a creative person and that you're a facilitator also helps you tremendously in facilitating your customers and helping your customers and maybe teaching them about things. So I can also imagine that all of that comes together really nicely into your job, or maybe it helps you in your job.
I think it definitely helps in the job, because that's why I think I'm always getting really focused in on the part of like listening to your customers and actually hearing where they're at, instead of just trying to solution for things that maybe they're not ready for yet. So that's a part that I always find myself focusing in on, is like really actually figuring out where people are and what they're ready for, and then how that kind of links together for a bigger picture piece, instead of like jumping in and being like, oh, we can do this or build this. Or especially when I was working back and doing a bit of consulting, sometimes you could build these like amazingly cool, like we were talking about, like dashboards or alerting things, and then you'd like hand them off to customers and they'd never use them.
Nope. They would probably be on a screen somewhere nobody would ever look at and just be there.
Yeah,
they'd just be there, looking pretty and never getting used.
But it's interesting to hear. Like every time I notice it, if someone from outside of tech gets into tech at some point, I was like, "What did you do before?" And it's a lot of times it's from a different background, but you notice when they tell their story, they're all creators, they're all teachers.
It's all creative
They are
people, right?
linkers of people.
Yeah.
It is they somehow they find their way into tech, and like everything, is in their spot. Like they're musicians. They're like we had Yasin last time, which is an artist, musician, historic. Like you just know the types that come from the outside and visit technology. They bring something
extra.
Yeah, they bring something extra, but like they're similar souls, like somehow.
But it also means that,
I
mean, the extra thing they bring is maybe also what makes them shine, because
but that's the nice part, because you can always find your role, your identity in there, where you bring the perspective of someone. And in tech, I think we need all visions from different perspectives all the time, because we're never building tech for ourselves. We're always building it for someone else.
Yeah. And for hopefully everyone else.
For everyone.
Yeah. I think techies, even if they're just techies by themselves, are inherently creative. I think some people don't give themselves the credit for being creative. But in tech, you have to learn something new every single day. You have to juggle many different ideas and put pieces of the picture together. And like, if that isn't creativity at its heart, then I don't know what it is.
You get all kinds of components on different abstraction levels, and you're making something out of that didn't exist before. And I think a lot of really people that started in tech were always interested in tech. Maybe they didn't give themselves enough credit because they think they are techies, and they see something creative as art or visual design or music or whatever. But it's like, ask any dev or whatever, did you build Lego when you were small? Did you, they all create something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, writing code is creating as well.
Yeah.
It's a creative job as well.
Definitely a creative process.
Yeah. Hannah, is there anything that you would like to get back to, or anything that you would like to add based on what we've discussed today?
Other topics, you mean?
Yeah. Maybe something you wanted to share that we didn't get around to yet, or maybe...
What did we miss?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think so.
Oh, but that's good.
Yeah. I think I would like to share a bit of the story because I think it's nice for other people to feel a bit inspired by it. I know out of my group of friends from when I was younger, I was probably the first person to go work in tech at this later age. And then I know a lot of other people followed suit after me that I knew in my extended community. And I think that was because they seen, oh, somebody did it even later in life. And that means that maybe I can do it as well. And it's a great area to be in. It's lots of fun. It's creative. Every day is different. As long as you're kind of happy and comfortable enough being like, okay, I don't know loads of stuff, then it's a fun place to be in.
Yeah, the funny thing is, I'm not going to name names, but somebody this week shared a story with me where they actually said, with all of this AI coming in, nobody's an expert anymore. We're all novices again. We're all finding out how it works. We're all seeing where this will bring us. So don't hesitate to try. Don't hesitate to just see where it brings you and how it can make or how it can work for you. And I think that's what tech should be about, right? We shouldn't bother ourselves with, do I know this? We should see how we can grow and learn and take the next step.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Thanks, Hannah, for being a guest. It was great having you on.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on. It's been, really nice to have a conversation with you both.
Cool. Thanks. And thank you for listening to Bad Talks, the podcast. Bad Talks is made possible by Badbit Managed Software Development.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.